Presenting travel writer and sacred mysterious site hunter, Teal Gray. Teal, what's on for tonight?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Paramysteries. This is your host, Teal Gray. We're coming to you live out of Birmingham, Alabama on WBHM-DB radio. We have a very, very special guest for you tonight on Paramysteries, Reverend Dr. Stephanie Rutt. Stephanie Rutt is a founding minister of the Tree of Life Interfaith Temple and Seminary in Milford, New Hampshire. She received her doctorate of ministry from Andover Newton Theological School, now Andover Newton Seminary at Yale, where she graduated with honors. She is the author of several books: The Call of the Mourning Dove, How Sacred Sound Awakens Mystical Unity, Living the Prayer of Jesus, A Study of the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic, and Lovers in the Wilderness, Discover Mystical Unity and Create a Joyful Life with Mantra Prayer. She has lectured nationally on the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic, as well as on how sacred sound may become a portal to mystical experience, and has even appeared on the TEDx stage. So pretty amazing. Gosh, to know somebody that has done a TED Talk, that's fantastic. And we're going to talk to you tonight on the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic and the 23rd Psalm in Hebrew. So welcome to the show, Reverend Dr. Stephanie Rutt.
Well, thank you. I'm really happy to be here, and I just really appreciate the opportunity to speak with everyone. It's great. So thank you.
Well, we are so honored to have you, and what a special time of year to be able to speak with you on the topics that we're going to tonight. I know everybody is just waiting to hear. You have such an amazing gift, many of them, as a writer and a speaker. I have taken one of your courses in the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic, and you're just also a brilliant teacher. You know, it's not always easy to teach. You know, some people can do that, but to teach is really difficult. And you were so just amazing at it, and the way you walked everybody through it, it was just really fantastic. I was really thrilled to do that.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you really so much for saying that. I love all of my participants, and I learn so much from everyone in all of the classes, and so it just brings me a great joy. I always tell people I don't have any monopoly on wisdom. I just get to hold the space and create a space where we're all teachers of one another, and that's where the real magic happens. I think it's like something happens beyond me, beyond them. There's an energy that comes in and takes over, and beautiful things happen just when people are in a space where their hearts open and we can hear and see and be with one another in a genuine way. It's really beautiful, and I love doing it. I love holding space, and I love learning from everyone around me, and it's a really wonderful exchange.
Well, I tell you, you know, being at conference with you several years ago was amazing. I just, to have, you know, so many people enthralled when they were listening to you say the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic, it's such an unusual experience. One, you speak Aramaic beautifully, just it flows so wonderfully from you. And I know that's just a blessing from God that works through you. It's amazing. But to see so many people surrounding you, and the effect that hearing the prayer in the language that it would have been spoken at the time had an amazing effect on everybody. I suppose that you get that a lot, right? Is that?
Well, that was really an amazing moment, because I was sitting in the front row, and it was all like volunteer, come up and share something if you're drawn to share something. And I just decided in the very last moment at that particular night to say, "Oh, I'll do the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic," and it was just one of those last-minute decisions, and it was it was really a beautiful moment, and again, it was just one of those times when you surrender to the moment, and something happens that you're observing and you're witnessing, and you're blessed with happening through you. And that's how I think of it. It doesn't come from me, it comes through me in those moments. And I remember that moment. It was it was
like, special. It was special for everyone. It really was. And people still talk about it. Other ministers and people that were there, we still think, we'll say, "Gosh, do you remember that?" And oh yes, of course they do. It was really special. So thank you for that. Obviously you've got many years of study. You're a doctor and you're ordained minister, and you do so much with this. Has that always been sort of your life path, or is it something you came to later in life?
I think for as long as I can remember, I have felt the unseen hand on my life in different ways and at different times, but it's always been there in my awareness. I didn't always know I was going to be a minister. That happened later, but I can look back and remember that it always seemed to me that there was something that was larger than me that I could only point to. I couldn't name or put in any kind of category or even faith tradition, but it was always clear to me it was there, and it had a part in my life. And I was the one that was in and out with it. It was always there, but I was the one that was in and out based on what was happening and the challenges that we're having or whatever. But I could always feel and know that unseen hand was there, and it was my job to be still and remember. And we can't forget something that's already there. So it's like, be still and remember I'm here. But I'd get busy and life would go along and things would happen, and then I'd remember, and then life would go on, and then I'd remember. And it's been that ongoing process of remembering more and more through spiritual practice over the years, of simply remembering what's already there, what's searching for us and longing for us, and wanting to guide and hold and be with us. And it's our job just to pause and open a space and remember, because it's already there. It breathes us. It beats our hearts when we're busy. It's more us than ourselves. It's just our job to remember. But life will carry us away, and then we come back, and life will carry us away, and then we come back. But it's our job to remember, and that's what our daily spiritual practice is about. It's about simply remembering.
That's a beautiful way to put that. Now, your books are, I love your books because
you're
so thorough. Your research is impeccable, but also you have a way of writing that makes people forget that they're even reading. You just sort of envelop us and take us, on the journey of what you're teaching. And that's such a rare gift.
Thank you.
It's just beautiful. And, I know a lot of people, want to have your books. And are they available everywhere, or is there certain places they should ask?
Well, they're on Amazon, but most of my books now are published through Whiffenstock. And so you can get them at Whiffenstock, or you can get them on Amazon. But they're all available. So
That's wonderful. Great. Well, I want to ask you before we get into the prayers and all of that, I want to ask you about your TED Talk. Now, that has to be quite exciting.
that was that was an amazing experience. But I tell you, Teal, that would have to be a whole other interview because that would take up the rest of the 45 minutes. But I have to tell you, it was one of the most profound spiritual experiences. It was both a practice and an experience that I've ever had in my entire life. And the short story of that and reason for that is because when I was a little girl, I stuttered really badly and I couldn't speak. And so over time I got over it, and I became a teacher and a minister. But then all of a sudden I was going to do this TED Talk, and these old fears came up. But I have to tell you, I prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed through that whole time. And I was the last on the day. And I prayed the whole day through the day because I was the last one. And the minute they called my name, I've described this in a blog, but the minute they called my name, it was like this wind. It was a literal thing. Just lifted me up, catapulted me out. And I felt completely calm, completely centered, completely ready and focused to do exactly what was needed to be done. I enjoyed myself. I felt like I totally belonged. But getting there, was like months and months of getting there. But then once that moment happened, it was like I landed in the soft hand of God. And I was completely and 100% there and doing exactly what needed to be done. And it was also being done through me, not from me. And it was just one of those, every time I think of it, I just say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because when you have those experiences, you really get it. It was you, but it wasn't you.
Yes.
And so it leaves you in this really humble place, because it's you, but it's not you. It's just you showing up, but it's not you. There's no way I could come out of there and say I did that. It just wouldn't be on my radar to say that, And so,
well, that is a life experience.
That would be a whole other show about that.
Well, I definitely want to have you back and hear about all of that. Now, tonight, before we have about 8 minutes before we go to break. Do you want to sort of let everybody know what to expect for the rest of that half hour once we come back? Is, how you're going to do the prayer and the 23rd Psalm in Hebrew? How do you want to do that tonight?
Well, I think it would be good if I read the prayer. I mean, obviously we can't teach the whole book in half an hour, but I can give I can read the prayer and then give an overview, a very, very broad overview. Mm-hmm. And then I think it would be really good to share a couple of stories, because it's really in the real life stories that people receive the blessing of the prayer. Mm-hmm. And that would probably be the best way to go, to read the prayer, to give a very brief and broad overview, and then to tell a story about it.
Perfect. Okay, that's
great. Does that
great.
Sound good?
That sounds good to me. So we have about 6 minutes. Do you want to wait until we come back from break, or do you want to start?
I think we could go ahead and start and at least read the prayer and maybe do an overview.
Sure.
And then beginning with the Lord's Prayer, and then we can come back and I'll tell a story about it. It's a really beautiful story from a person that was in my class that actually wrote a quote on the back of the book. But,
wonderful. Perfect.
So here you go. And I just want to say, for all of those who are listening, I was one who said this prayer all of my life, of course, all of my life. And it was nice and wonderful and good and sweet. But it wasn't until I was able to say it in Aramaic that my soul got it. It's like my soul woke up.
Yeah, I do understand after hearing you say it.
And dance.
Yeah.
So, and that's another show, because that's embedded in the ancient languages, that those energy-based languages, which is why your soul responds even when your mind is going, I don't get it, I don't understand, but your soul is going, yes, yes, yes. So that's kind of that thing. So here's what it sounds like.
Okay.
For those who maybe haven't heard it. Avun debashmaya net kadishma tete malkuta nefwe sabiana ikana debashmaya Havlan lakma disun kanan yomana washpaklon halbain waktahain Ikana daf kanan shwakano hai yabain Wela talan lanasuna Ela patzan minbisha Mitol delache malkuta Wahaila Wa teshbukta La'alam Amin Amen.
Wow. That gives you a clue.
I have a hard, I have to tell myself open mouth, shape words. After you even after reading it, it's hard to talk sometimes. But so basically, just to give a very, very broad overview, the first thing I love about the prayer is that there are two parts. The first part talks to us about our divinity and our connection. And then the second part is about our humanity, and it speaks to us about how we go about our daily living. And so it's a prayer for all of life and for all of us. But it begins with Avun, and in the halfway through it goes on earth as it is in heaven. And then it ends with Amen. And so it begins and in the middle, and it ends with you know when you can't say anything, or you don't know what to say, or you can't express it, all you can do is go it's like it's like being at a painting, and it's so beautiful that all you can do is so that I'm in love with the I'm in love with the and the holds the whole prayer. The second thing that's really important is this prayer was given in response to someone asking Jesus, Lord, teach us to pray. And the first thing he said was, Avun debashmaya. And the Avun means the unmanifested, the one to which we can only point. And debashmaya means all of the world of creation. And so what he was saying is that God is here now, in us, around us, through us, above us, below us. God doesn't so much live in us as we live in God. He was saying all of that in those first two words. Wow. He wasn't pointing to some man in the sky with a big beard. He was saying, God is here, right here. And so I love that, Avun debashmaya. And if we had time, I could show you how each of the letters in Avun in the Hebrew and Aramaic language, which are sister languages, each one has a certain meaning, and it expresses that deeper truth of the Avun being the one and the debashmaya being the expression. And so he was saying, God is here. And it also points to the notion of breath, that we are, I like to say, we are breathed. It's God that's breathing you and beating your heart when you're busy. God is here now. And that's why I love this language, and I love learning about the prayers in their ancient language, because it reveals what Jesus was really saying through the understanding of the Aramaic and through the sound of the Aramaic. Because even if you don't understand what you're saying, believe me, your soul will get it. And it just goes around the brain. It doesn't need the mind. Thank your mind for sharing. Let it go sit, because it goes around the mind, and it touches your soul, and you get it. And I can't tell you, over the years, I've had so many people say to me, "Oh my gosh, I never knew. I never understood. I could never feel it like this." And it changes everything. It creates this deeper love.
It does.
Love.
I had not heard it in Aramaic, and it is very special. It does touch your soul. It's amazing.
It does. It does.
Well, we'll go to break now, and then when we come back, we'll pick up, and that way you won't have to be interrupted. So everybody, we're going to come back in just a couple minutes from break. This is Teal Gray on Paramysteries. We're with Dr. Stephanie Rutt, and coming to you from WBHM-DB Radio. We'll be back in just a minute.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope.
That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk radio.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to Paramysteries. This is Teal Gray. We're coming to you live from Birmingham, Alabama on WBHM-DB Radio. Tonight, we have been speaking with Reverend Dr. Stephanie Rutt, and she just said the most beautiful prayer in Aramaic, the Lord's Prayer, and now we're joining her again so that she can complete her thoughts on that and share some stories. So thank you for being here tonight, Reverend Rutt, and I want to turn it over to you so I won't interrupt you.
Oh, no, it's wonderful. Thank you again, Teal. I just wanted to share with you a story that was kind of funny. It was wonderful. It was kind of funny. A place here in New Hampshire that's really, really special to me is called the House of Prayer in New Ipswich, and it's run by Catholic nuns. And we have taken our seminary there on retreat for years and years. So anyway, one of the sisters there asked me, she said, why don't you come and do a workshop on the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic, on the Our Father? Now, I don't have any history with Catholicism. I'm not a Catholic, but I love the sisters and I love their center. And so I said, okay. And really, I confess I was a little bit nervous about it because I thought I'm going out to a Catholic center to teach the Our Father to nuns that have been saying this prayer for 35 years or plus. And I'm an interfaith minister, and they know all of that. But still, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to teach the Our Father to all of these wonderful nuns. And so I go that morning, and I pull up in the parking lot, and I get out of my car, and there's a nun there I don't recognize, and she has this beautiful face. She's probably 60, and she has this beautiful face and smile. But she looks at me and she says, I didn't sleep very good. I came from another part of town, so I may fall asleep. So you better be good.
Oh my goodness.
So she was teasing me, of course, but I'm already nervous about it. So I was trying to laugh with her and everything. And so we went in and I started it and we chanted it and we danced it and we just had a beautiful day with it. And by the middle of the day, by lunch time, her name was Sister Margaret, she came up to me and she said, okay, you've got my attention. I thought, oh, Sister Margaret's got Sister Margaret's attention. And then we did the afternoon, and at the end of the day, she came up to me and she said, I have been saying this prayer every day for 40 years. I will never hear it or say it the same way again.
Wow.
I'm taking your CD. This is back when the CDs. Yes. I'm taking it home. I'm going to learn this prayer. And she actually gave a quote for the back of my book. And if you have my book, you'll see it's Margaret, Sister Margaret on the back. And she wrote a quote because after all of those years, one day, this is the power of the sound current, one day, and it completely opened a place in her that she hadn't known before. And that's exactly what these ancient languages do, is that they go straight to our soul, and our soul responds even when we don't even know why or how or what happened or what's going on, but it will feel right because our soul gets it. And that's what happened. That's an example of the power of the sound current. And she was just the most blessed human being that day and just fell in love with the prayer. And a couple of years later, when I wrote my book on it, she offered a quote for the back cover. So I just wanted to share that and honor Sister Margaret. I hope she's listening.
Yeah, so special. That's so special. You couldn't have gotten a quote from anybody better. That's amazing. I love that story. Such a great story. Oh, wow. And, you're right. It's something that goes beyond, just knowledge or hearing or understanding. Your soul is understanding and remembering and interpreting. And as you say, through you, it goes through everybody who hears that. And it's just a wonderful energy in space. So now, are we going to visit the 23rd Psalm in Hebrew?
I would love to do that if you would like to do that as well.
I would love to. Sure.
Well, I have to tell you, Hebrew and Aramaic are sister languages. And so once again, each letter in the Hebrew and the Aramaic script has a purpose and a meaning all its own. So when you put those letters together in words, the meaning of the words is much larger than the sum of the letters. And that's why it's so powerful. So Hebrew and Aramaic, again, are sister languages. They use the same script, and each one of the letters means the same thing. So it's really important to realize that you're not just sounding like A's and C's and X's and Y's like in English. You are really sounding prayers in each one of those letters that make up each one of those words. And that's why it's so powerful. It just stops you, and you can say nothing but What else can you say?
That's right. But the awe is a great thing.
Okay, so I'll do the 23rd Psalm in Hebrew, and then I'll give you a couple of just really beautiful examples of how the language and the translation is really important, because we have lost a lot due to the translation. And so a lot has been lost, as we see in the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic. So here is, I love this, here is the Psalm of David. Mizmor LaDavid, Adonai ro'i lo exar, benot dershe yarbit seni, alme menahot yanahaleni, nafshi ye shavel yanhaini, vama agle zedek lema'an shemo. Gam ki alet biget zal mavet lo irara ki ata imadi. Shivteka umishanteka hema yamahanoni. Ta'arok lefana shohan neget zororai. Deshante b'shemen roshi kos I ravaya. Akto varik sed yarfuni koli ame hayai. Beshavti bebet Adonai leorech yamim.
Beautiful. It's powerful. It's really beautiful.
Oh, it is. So the first line is, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. That's how it's normally translated in English. But that's not what it says in Hebrew.
Oh.
In Hebrew, it's Adonai ro'i lo exar. And what it translates, that lo exar, is not I shall not want. It translates I lack not. So see the difference?
Yes.
So what it's subtle but really important, because when the Lord is our shepherd, of course we lack not. It's not a matter of what we shall do or won't do or will do. It's the Lord is my shepherd. I lack not. I'm already full. In that moment of remembrance, no matter what is happening in my life, from the worst of the worst to the best of the best, if I say Adonai ro'i lo exar, I remember I'm already full. Right now, I lack not. Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing, and really, the translation means everything. It means everything. And
it's like we're not begging, or we're affirming. We're saying the Lord is my shepherd, I lack not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, how
you're
beautiful
a child
is
of the
that?
Most High God. You're not in lack. You're right there. You're full. I love that.
You're already full. And then later on in the part where it says again, you prepare a table and you before me and before mine enemies, and you anoint my head with oil. And then it says, my cup overflows, and that's the kos-i ravaya. And so when I teach this in my classes, we stop at that phrase and we go, kos-i ravaya. Because it's like and I have one particular student of mine who loves that, and she just belts it out. Kos-i ravaya. It's like we remember, my cup overflows. I'm already full because the Lord is my shepherd. So it's just, it is amazing. And
it speaks to that
me,
celebration of the relationship of the Lord in our lives and with us. And, that exuberance and the dancing and the praise. I mean, when you're speaking it in their language and the translation is so different, you can see that joy and jubilation, and it just gives me chills.
Doesn't it?
Yes.
It does. It just, and there is a joy. I mean, oh my gosh, there's so much sorrow and struggle and suffering in our world, and in particular right now. But what I've noticed is that right in the middle of that, not going away or trying to deny it or minimize it in a way, but instead going right to the middle of it, and then being able to say, kos-i ravaya. Even here, I am already full. My cup overflows. And that, I have to tell you, so many times in my life, that has saved me when I've come to the end of the end of the end and can't see my way back up, or how to get back up, or how to go back up. If I can remember lo exar and kos-i ravaya, it's like the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic. I remember Abun Bashmaya. I remember that I live in God. I live in God. And so, and I'm already full, and the Lord is my shepherd. So whatever is happening to me, I am not alone, and I'll be okay. And that, I have no words for the blessing that is. No words at all.
And where it comes from and the way you're held in the palm of his hand. I mean, I think so many people, this is so special tonight and through this holiday season, which is tough for people in most years generally anyway. And then with the pandemic, it's so much. I just so grateful for you to be delivering this message to the world tonight. I really thank you so much.
Well, I think sometimes death brings us to life. We often say it's kind of one of those esoteric principles. Oh, I could die anytime, and we say those things and live every moment and all of that, but it becomes much more real. It becomes much closer when we are in the middle of a pandemic, when at any moment I could get a fever and start, being achy and have to go in the hospital. And I can remember at the beginning of the pandemic, that really occurred to me. I thought, oh my gosh, any moment I could get sick and be hospitalized, and I could die. And the very next thought was, but wait, there are things I haven't said to people that I need to say to them.
Mm.
And I took about 3 days, and I wrote 7 things to each person in my family of things that I appreciated about them, and especially the ones that I've had a lot of trouble and hardship with.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really important to do that, because then I thought, okay, now I don't want to die, I don't want to go, but at least now I've said what I need to say. It felt really important to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So death brought life and love, or just the real knowing that our time here is limited. It's limited, and the pandemic only brings that closer.
Mm-hmm.
And so what does that do is it stirs us to life and love, because there's only so much time.
Yes.
And that was a gift to me. It was a gift, and the pandemic in that regard has been a great gift to me.
Well, it certainly brings the forward focus, you're centering, and so many people who had not even thought about it, none of this was on their radar, the world just came to a halt. And I think in some ways it can be a blessing, because people had gotten so far away from their families, their loved ones. They're so busy. Well, this stopped everything, and then people came together, and families got closer, and they worked out what they needed to work out, and get past it, because they realize, some of these things just aren't that important that are separating us, and some of the things that you think are so big, they're not. And so it's kind of a bit of a reset, and I've always I agree with you, because I've always tell people time is the most precious thing. You don't know how much you came into the world with, but it's ticking constantly. And I want to just always focus on that, because that's not healthy. But at the same time, you do want to always be grateful for the time you have, and use it to the best of the ability, which you certainly are. And you're making a difference to other people with the work you do. And so I celebrate you for that again.
But Teal, I love the word reset. What you said, it was a reset. What a beautiful word to describe it. It's a reset.
And the whole
that
world it did. Even the earth, the pollution, where spaces have been so terrible. There's pictures where, I don't want to pick on India. I love India. But, there was one picture where you could hardly recognize what was beyond the air. And then now, after everything was shut down, birds, they talked about birds who hadn't been in certain areas in decades. They were back. Things were alive. And I think the earth had to breathe. I think it was something that, as horrible as it is, and as many lives that have been lost, and I don't take that lightly, there always is something blessed beyond the darkness,
and
beautiful.
Yes.
With the earth, the animals, the air, everything, and the reset, for the people. It's been some beautiful things come out of it.
It's beautiful, and I love that. Thank you for that.
Well, I can't.
So I have how much time I want to ask how much time we have before I tell the story, because we may not have time.
Let's go to break. We'll go ahead and go to break, and then when we come back, you'll have about 10 minutes to tell your story. So everybody, we're going to go to break and listen to our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope.
That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back, everyone. We're on WBHM-DB Radio, coming to you live out of Birmingham, Alabama. We are so excited tonight to have Dr. Rutt with us. She has been talking to us about the 23rd Psalm and the Lord's Prayer, and she has spoken them in their languages of Aramaic and Hebrew, and there just has been so uplifting and beautiful. And she's got some stories she's going to tell us now in relation to the 23rd Psalm. So I'll turn it over to you, Doctor.
Okay, thank you. Well, this is a story that's related to the 23rd Psalm. It's really about the power of the sound current, again, in Hebrew in particular. I was learning Hebrew at the same time I was doing Psalm 23, and I love my Hebrew teacher. And I go to a lesson one day, and she's looking a little different, and she says, you know, I think it's time that you took up another part of the Hebrew Bible in Hebrew, and maybe from a rabbi this time, so you can really align with the lineage. And I was not very happy about that because I loved my melodic and beautiful Psalm 23. It was to a song, and I was in love with it. And so I wasn't really a real happy camper to go off and do something else, But I've learned if you're going to be a good teacher, you need to be a good student. And she's a wonderful teacher, so I trusted her, and I said, okay. And so she said, all right, here's what I want you to do. I want you to do Genesis 1:1 in Hebrew. Bereshit bara Elohim is the first part of that. And I want you to listen to this rabbi. And I'm like, I was not excited or happy to do it. But I'm up every morning. I have on my headphones, Bereshit bara Elohim, that I'm doing the whole thing. And I'm listening to this rabbi, and it doesn't feel melodic. It doesn't feel devotional. It feels kind of raspy, and I don't like it, and my mind is having a field day. I am not happy. I don't want to do this. I'm not having a good time. I want my Psalm 23 back. Blah, 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 blah. But I get up every morning, and I'm doing over and over and over again, Bereshit bara Elohim, and the whole thing. So, and then afterwards, because you mentioned this is another really important piece with all mantra practice, is that what the mantra is doing is just honing the mind to create the conditions for that portal that allows our soul to recognize itself and to respond. And so we're creating the conditions for mystical unity when we're doing mantra practice. So so after the practice, I would sit in silence, right? And so it's still, my mind was like, I'm not happy. I want my 23rd song back, blah, 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 blah. You know, minds do that. They have a lot of commentary.
Right.
But every day I'm up and I'm doing my practice. I'm doing my thing. And then about, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I had done the practice. It wasn't anything special. I was as annoyed as ever. And then I'm sitting in the silence afterwards. And I don't know whether my mind just got exhausted and gave up. I don't know what happened. But it was like for half a second, just half a second, it was like, the only way I've ever been able to describe it is that it's like a window opened and closed. It's like a window opened and closed. And I got a glimpse of a place of eternity that was only half a second. Just a glimpse. And so I went back to my Hebrew teacher the next week, and I said, what happened? I've had those moments in silence when I've lost time and space, or in the middle of centering prayer. Anyone who meditates a lot will recognize those moments. But this was a different experience of like a window opening and then closing. It was like a shutter opening and closing. And she just said to me something like, you experience your soul, in the way that she could describe it. But the point of the story is not what I experienced. The point of the story is how powerful the sound current is, because it was powerful enough to cut through all of my mind complaining, resisting, blah, 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 blah. It was powerful enough to cut through all of that straight to my soul. And that is the power of the sound current. Wow. I didn't have to like it. I didn't like it. I didn't really even have to understand it.
But it worked its magic anyway. Yeah.
It worked because that's the power of the sound current. And I write about that in Call of the Mourning Dove. That's how powerful it is. I love that, because we think, our mind is in control. Well, our minds like to be in control, but as I like to say, thank your mind for sharing and invite it to go sit somewhere, and maybe you can have a different experience. But anyway, I share that story again, not because of what happened to me, but it gives an example of how really powerful the sound current is if we engage it.
Yeah.
And the other story I just wanted to tell, and this is really sweet. One of our members in our church, her father was in the hospital, and this is the man that I had done chair yoga with when I was teaching yoga years ago, and I knew him, and he hadn't been responsive for a number of days, and they were expecting him to pass really soon. And I was in the hospital by his hospital bed, and I was sitting with my friend there and just sitting with him, and this hospice chaplain came in, and they always do Psalm 23, and it was really beautiful, and it was really wonderful. And then she left, and then my friend said to me, she said, Stephanie, why don't you do Psalm 23 in Hebrew? And my first response was, her father didn't have any particular faith tradition. He never went to church. And so there was a pause in me that was wondering, is that what he would want at this moment? And that was what that pause was. And so I said, well, gee, I don't know. I'm kind of pausing. And she said, no, I'm asking you to do it. Please do it. And so I said, okay. And so I went up to the side next to his head, and I took his hand up in my hand, and I said to him, Frank, I'm going to be saying Psalm 23 that the chaplain just said, but I'm going to say it in Hebrew. And I know that you won't understand it, but just let the sounds wash over you. Just receive them with all of my love for you. And then I said Psalm 23 in Hebrew, as I did a few minutes ago with you. And this is a man that had not been responsive in a couple of days at this point. And somewhere toward the end of the prayer, there was a tear coming down his left cheek.
Oh, wow.
And it was like like when you have these moments, you know that the Holy Spirit, that something has happened here, and you're just witnessing. You're just graced and blessed to be the witness of that. And I remember he passed a couple of days later, and I was blessed to do the memorial service and the gravesite. And as we were driving to the gravesite, there was a deer on the other side. This is one of the graveyards where they had stones. They're all flat, and so it looks like you're just in a big field or park. And there was this deer that was just jumping up in joy, just jumping up in joy. And I remember thinking, like, after having had that experience of the tear, and then going to the gravesite and witnessing this deer, it was just all this very beautiful experience of joy and the depth of love in the middle of dying. And later that night, when we were still in the hospital, I was there. I had left and I had come back later. And my friend said to me again, would you do that again? Would you say it to Frank again? And I did. And honest to God, once again, here comes the tear down his cheek. And this was in response to the Hebrew. It's like he didn't have to, he may not even have been able to tell me what Psalm 23 was. I don't know. But he got it. He got it. He experienced it because he did. And that's where the tear was. And then we went to bury him, and there was the deer just having its own party at the other end of the graveyard. It was just, I wrote a poem about that deer. But it was one of those beautiful experiences.
Hard. Yeah, it's hard for the ones left behind, but at the same time, that deer is almost like the celebrating of him, then being present with the Lord and embraced by all those who had passed before, so they're having this celebration while we're mourning. That's really interesting. The deer, I love that.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you for mirroring that back. That was wonderful.
I love it. Well, we are about 5 minutes away, and it's just, I tell you, I know that this is people, there's a lot of people messaging me, they're listening, they're loving it. And I know there'll be a lot of replays. I just want to give you this last 5 minutes to just, as anything you want to end with, or let anybody know anything, how to reach you. And again, your books are on Amazon, so
they are.
Find that way.
Okay, well, you can reach me on my website at stephanierutt.com, very simple, and learn more about the classes I'm offering, and see a listing there of my books as well under the homepage. Under information about me, all the books are listed there. But I think what I would like to do to close, because I want to close with a prayer. I'd like to close in in that place of prayer, because I know it will linger, and I'd rather have it end with that lingering. And I think what I'll do, this just came to me this moment. At the front of my dissertation, I wrote a poem about the sound current, and it's called "The Sound of God." Is it okay if I read it?
I would love that. Please do. And everybody, we're going to end after she reads that so that we go out as she wished on that prayerful note. I just want to thank you all for listening tonight, and we'll see you next week. And we will turn it over to the Reverend Dr. Stephanie Rutt. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. And this is a poem I wrote about the sound current in about 2012. It's called "The Sound of God." I recognize the feeling, caught, breathless, remembering, forgetting, some unexpected and unforeseen yearning fulfilled, suspended from knowing, free-falling, yet cradled into the sweet abyss of unknowing. I've been here before, when I first echoed the Gayatri mantra in Sanskrit, call a call in Gurmukhi, Allah Ajamil in Arabic, the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic, Psalm 23 in Hebrew, last sounds before sleep, first sounds upon waking, and each day carving deeper and deeper. And each time, I can't remember how I was when I began, and I don't know where I may land. For like a bell echoes on a summer's breeze, each sound calls me home, and together they sing to me softly, chiming in the wind, a kind of lullaby known only to the beloved. And I am rocked to sleep, even as I am waking.
Beautiful. Thank you, everybody. Bless you. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
You are listening to